Hello, students. We're going to be taking Cornell Notes on tone today. And our essential question is, what is tone and what strategies can I use to determine the tone of a text? So let me just get my notes, which are right here. I write my notes on paper before I give them to you. So let me write this down. Tone is the attitude a writer has toward a subject, theme, or audience. Okay, so we have the author's tone, right? And then we have the tone of a text. So I'm going to call this author's tone. And then we also have tone of a text. The tone of a text explains the attitude of an author has toward his or her characters, subject, and audience. Okay, I'll continue adding. Let me pause. So, tone is communicated through the author's choice of words. We call that diction. And point of view. Point of view has to do with who's speaking and where they come from. So, having an understanding of the background of the author is helpful in that. So, if you want to get an understanding of tone, look at this example. The child blank in the walk in closet as the armed robbers raided the house. So, if we put hid as our word choice inside that blank, we're just saying that the child hid in the walk in closet while the armed robbers were in the house. We have no internal state of the child, right? Just the action of what the child did. But if you say the child cowered in the walk in closet, that has a different connotation. So, in that sense, the internal state of the child is the child's afraid, right? The child is afraid and the child is hiding in the closet. So, with word choice, you have to think of the connotation of a word. So, what feelings come with that word, right? And also what secondary definitions. Okay, so when we're discussing the differences between hid, which is just an action, and coward, which is the action plus an emotional state, right, of fear, we're talking about diction. Diction is word choice, right? It comes from the Latin prefix dict, which means word, right? So the denotation is the dictionary definition of a word. Like if I look up that word in the dictionary, I'll get that definition. The connotation is the idea or quality that a word makes you think about in addition to its meaning. So I'll give you an example of that in just a second. When talking about connotation, some words have like a positive vibe or feeling connected to them, and other words have a negative feeling connected to them. So when you hear the word slender, you might think of a ballerina, right, dancing on the stage. But when you hear the word skinny, you might think of like someone like a bulimic model, like someone whose bones are like showing through their skin. So the word scent is used by a lot of perfume companies like Chanel. Like, this is the new Chance perfume. It's a great scent for any woman. And then odor is the word you would attribute to a middle school locker room, right? So these are synonyms, but they carry different connotations. And you'll be doing a homework assignment on that tonight. So I like thinking about the about tone and mood as like a yin and yang. So tone is everything that the author does to make you feel a certain way. So if this is poetry, you're thinking about the imagery, you're thinking about the word choice, everything that the author is doing. Mood is how you're feeling as a result of the tone. I also like thinking about this with regards to scary movies. Tone is everything the director is doing to make you feel afraid. When you jump in your seat, right, that mood of fear is the result of the tone. So we use words to describe authors' tones. So examples of some tone could be serious, comic if it's lighthearted, sarcastic, right? We could speak in a certain tone, right? We could speak in a sarcastic tone like, "Oh, you're really smart," right? But also we can write in a sarcastic tone. Cheerful, formal, informal. All writing and speaking contains tone. So um, everybody has a different tone of voice, right? Like you recognize your mom's tone of voice as different from your dad's. So, in the same way that we all have different tones of voice, we all have different ways of writing, right? And you can distinguish someone's tone, right? You can distinguish the author's tone in a text by analyzing their word choice, the imagery that they're using, and their background, where they're coming from. We do have to analyze tone because often they're not going to say exactly what they think about a subject, right? Especially the more academic you get, the less likely they are to pinpoint exactly how they feel on a subject. They're going to make the reader infer. So we have to infer, which is read between the lines, right? And analyze word choice and imagery and who the author is in order to distinguish their tone. I do want to mention when we're talking about tone, we talked about it earlier, this issue of sarcasm. So we talk about people being sarcastic or using sarcasm. Sarcasm happens when you use words that are the opposite of what you're really trying to say in order to either insult someone, communicate frustration, or to be funny. So if you're thinking about it raining really hard outside, right? The weather's horrible. It's raining so hard the rain could hurt you, right? It's like hailing. If you turn to someone and go, "Great weather we're having today, right?" That's sarcastic, right? Because what you're saying doesn't match the situation and you're being funny, right? Or you're emphasizing the fact that the weather really sucks. There are times when an author may choose a tone that is opposite of what they intend. And normally they do this to be funny. So if you think about the film Death to 2020, it's a documentary. Documentaries are normally supposed to be very informative and they're supposed to have a very formal tone. But Death to 2020 is a parody of a documentary. So it's actually really funny and it's making fun of all the things that happened in 2020, right? We also have the movie Scary Movie, which is a parody of all these different scary movies. And so it acts like it's a scary movie, but it's also at the same time making fun of the plot sequences of most scary movies. Okay, so now that you have these notes on tone, what I would like you to do for homework is to put in all your questions and terms. And I would also like you to write a 5 to 7 sentence summary. Um, I actually think this says 2 to 3 sentences. So write a summary explaining what you've learned and make sure that your summary answers the essential question. What is tone? And what strategies can I use to determine the tone of a text?